At a moment like this, I invite you to come with me as we study another controversial, misunderstood concept of the Garden of Eden. Most of the times, we find the concept of the Garden of Eden from religious circles and other people who want to claim that they can establish the source of existence of you and me. We are going to spend a time together looking at the fundamentals of existence based on the Garden of Eden. The person speaking to you this moment, my name is Chiyinji Martin. I am a lead research scholar of Microcode Uganda. I am also a PhD student at Nkumba University here in Uganda. I want to thank you. You have managed to access this file. Please don't move any further as we study together regarding the Garden of Eden. I know you have heard about the Garden of Eden, but I need you to clear your mind as we are going to take on another dimension of the Garden of Eden. Everywhere I find individual persons, academic institutions, think tanks, research organizations, even the United Nations. They are in wonder and looking for the location of the Garden of Eden. These institutions are using physical senses or scientific inquiry. Whenever we talk of physical senses, it means they are depending on eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and touching to establish the location and the significance of the Garden of Eden. Anthropologists, archaeologists, and paleoanthropologists, they have done a great task of fossil excavation, seeking for establishing the beginnings of existence. Despite that, it is still until date, it's not clear where is the Garden of Eden. What is the Garden of Eden? Is the concept of the Garden of Eden, is it a myth or is it a reality? You will walk with me to establish what it meant in the beginning, the concept of the Garden of Eden. Looking at literature review, I did a critical review. The Bible mentions the Garden of Eden, and it is the only book which has authority of the location of the Garden of Eden. Allow us to move together. The Garden of Eden must have been a location, but also must have been a symbol of something bigger. I need you to realize that by the time Genesis in the Bible was written, it was written using symbolic language. Why symbolic language? Because that time there has not been the invention of writing. People had not started writing. Therefore, knowledge was preserved as symbols. One of the statements that is key in the Genesis is three things. God, number one, He formed or created man, number two, from dust. But number three, God breathed the breath of life into man. That's when man became a living soul. Let's understand this. God breathed He created man. But God breathed the breath of life into man. The breath of life was never created, but its source is God. Therefore, for man to become a living soul, he has the characteristics of God based on the breath of life. Therefore, this man was created, and he was put in an already finished, meticulous, organized Garden of Eden. When you look at this, when man was put in an already done Garden of Eden, the Garden of Eden was not by coincidence. It was based on order of existence. What am I saying? Everything in the garden was not by coincidence, and man was supposed to take care of the order that God had established. Therefore, man was placed into an already existing framework of existence by which he must adapt, either obey the existing order or refuse and choose otherwise. Until today, the subsequent people or individual persons, you and me, we continue to be born into an already existing possibility of existence or the order of existence. All of us, we are born into a world which is already in existence. But how much do we know of the order of existence of the world into which me and you were born into? The fundamental basic line here is Eden was a location, because if man was put in the Garden of Eden, he was put, number one, in a location which was a garden by the eastern side of Eden. Therefore, Eden must have been a location. Now, the methodology of inquiry, or the means to establish the truth by that time, it was based on what we call as philosophical inquiry. It was not scientific inquiry. Philosophy is the study of truth based on two variables. One, apophilosophy, where did I come from? Prophilosophy, where am I heading? Therefore, the initial means to establish the truth was based on establishing where am I coming from and where am I going. Now, looking at that approach, we must establish that the concept of Eden, has been mentioned in Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2. We are trying to trace what is this Garden of Eden. Is it a physical garden? Is it a non-physical garden? What is this concept of the garden? Therefore, in chapter 1 and chapter 2 of Genesis, they talk of a garden where the first man was placed. But Cheikh Anta Diop is a Senegalese scholar. In 1974, he wrote a book about the African origin of civilization. And he said that the first and original name of Africa was called Alkebulan. Why Alkebulan? These are names we've never heard of. Yes, but it is not the only name of Africa. Other scholars continue to mention that Alkebulan means the Garden of Eden or the source of mankind. Other names of Africa included Kemet, which meant land of blacks, due to the black soils from the river Nile. But other scholars, the same land was also called the land of Ham, Ethiopia, Eden, Cush, or the Cushites, Ifriqiya, Kophia, or Tigria. Have you heard of a Bible mentioning, can a leopard change its dark spots? The Ethiopian eunuch was an African. When we talk of this ancient past, I need you to get me clear. I am not talking about the supremacy of Africa. No, 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 no. I am talking about the history of existence, your existence and my existence. We are going beyond the history of our existence into the beginning of existence. We cannot establish the nature of our existence looking and using at scientific inquiry, but we are digging backwards in the beginning of time. The prior names of Africa kept on changing one after another, one after another. Africa is now the name, but it may not be the last because the conquerors keep changing the name. But I need you to know that the centrality of existentialism, let me put it simply, the essence, the beginning of existence, the location of Eden, the significance of Eden, even the functionality of that same land in Eden has never changed. Many scholars have established that the Garden of Eden was in Asian countries near the Gulf of Eden. Now we call it the Arabian Desert, where we have River Tigris and Euphrates. But other scholars have said that Eden must have been located in the southern part of Africa. Some scholars say it is around River Zambezi in Africa. All these people have used the scientific inquiry or the scientific or the physical senses to establish the location of the Garden of Eden. Let's move together. We are also on the hunt to establish the Garden of Eden. I want you to know that the concept of a Garden of Eden was symbolic and illustrative of some order of existence within the fundamental nature of existence. What am I saying? That the concept of a garden, yes, it was a physical garden, but it was just a symbol of a metaphysiological or a spiritual identity of that makes us living souls. This Garden of Eden was more than a physical garden. It was symbolic of the order of existence. What do we mean by order of existence? Every setting has a framework by which the rules are established. What am I saying? Every government has laws which govern the good and the bad. The concept of a garden was like a country coming up with an order the way citizens must behave. And if you don't behave like the same way, you are considered a deserter or a person who is against that country. In this case, the concept of a garden which was meaning the order of how things are to be done, was established in Eden or Al-Keblan. Sorry. This concept of a garden, the Bible tells us, was established at the eastern side of Eden. The eastern side of Eden, if Eden is Al-Keblan, or Africa, the eastern side or the east of Eden must logically be the eastern part of Africa. Now, looking at this, the beginning of our existence, everything that was had both the physical and non-physical dimension. Let me put it this way. The reason for establishing the Garden of Eden was metaphysical, but the physical construction or establishment of the Garden of Eden was spiritual. So we call this a duality of existentialism. Why is it a duality? It has a physical side and a metaphysiological or spiritual side. That's why Genesis 1:1 tells us, it is the first verse in the Bible. It says, "In the beginning of existence, God created the heaven and the earth." Therefore, whatever follows was both a heaven, metaphysiological or spiritual, or earth, physiological. Now, let's dig down and find out where is the Garden of Eden. I need you to appreciate that the beginning of existence by far precedes the existence of man. What am I alluding to here? Man was put in a Garden of Eden which is already in existence. Therefore, the actual beginning of existence is not the beginning of man. Actually, man was among the last creations to be established. But the beginning of existence of man is also so far prior to the beginning or to the invention of writing. Let me put it simply. By the time we started writing, there were many years to the time when man first existed. But by the time man existed, there were many years from the beginning of existence. We are digging backwards way before even the existence of man. This is not philosophy only, but we are studying the location of the Garden of Eden based on philosophy, which is the primordial methodology of inquiry. They were looking for where did I come from and where am I heading. Therefore, we are in the process of digging into the apophilosophy, meaning where did we come from. Towards the end, we shall look at the prophilosophy. Where are we heading? The Bible tells me that whatever was created in Genesis chapter 1, God could say it is good. Now, this considered good of every creation was not only physical good, but it was also spiritual good. I want you to walk with me. When you read chapter 1, all the verses there, whatever was established, God ended by saying it was good. This good was not only the physical beauty, but even the spiritual intent why it was established was also good. The Bible says, after saying everything was good, the Bible could say, and it was evening, and it was morning, and that is the first day. And it was evening, and was morning, the second day. And so was the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. Both the good of the physical and the spiritual was perfect according to God's design. Therefore, the order of counting time was based on evening, which is symbolic of night or ignorance, to morning, which is symbolic of day or consciousness or awareness or illumination. Therefore, according to God, a day was beginning in the beginning of the night, and ends at the end of the day. But man, by his own free will, has changed this. Right now, our day starts from midnight to midnight. So what does this symbolically mean? It means we start from ignorance, midnight, we go through consciousness, we are aware of things, and then go back into midnight. So the current day of man is midnight, ignorance, back to midnight, to ignorance. This means the order of existence was corrupted. Man has disobeyed God. What does it mean? There are consequences of disobedience. Therefore, the day and night, the measurement of the day and night was based on equality and equity. What does it mean? The scope of time of the day and night was equal. Now, we must appreciate that it is only at the equator line that day and night is equal. Okay? So what are we saying? The Garden of Eden must have been where God considered every creation as good. Number 2, the day was beginning in the night and ending during day. Number 3, the amount of time of the night and amount of time of the day was equal. And it is only at the equator where this is possible. Therefore, the physical Garden of Eden was a location in Eden or in Africa where day and night is constantly equal. Let's put that in context. When we are looking for the physiological Garden of Eden, the physical location of it, it was located in Eden, on the eastern side of Eden or Africa, where the day and the night is equal by the equator. But there is also another clue. As well, it was the intersection where a stream was flowing out of Eden while crossing the equator. The stream that was watering the Garden of Eden was flowing out of Eden. There are 2 streams flowing out of Eden. One is River Nile, number 2 is River Congo. River Congo flows across the equator and again goes back southwards. So it crosses the equator twice. Therefore, it does not cross the equator. It goes back. It is only River Nile that flows out of Eden, crossing the equator. Therefore, where there is an intersection between the equator in Eden or Africa and a river is crossing the equator, that is where the symbolic Garden of Eden and the physical garden was located. Such the intersection where a river flows out of Eden while crossing the equator in Eden, such intersection is now considered as Uganda. Therefore, considering Uganda as the Pearl of Africa, as the Garden of Eden, other people call it the Eye of Earth and other names, is not a physical, but it is a spiritual truth, or it is an existential truth. Let me say this. Considering Uganda as the Pearl of Africa or Pearl of Eden, it is not physical truth, but it is an existential truth, both physical and spiritual or metaphysiological. The word metaphysiological means spiritual or non-physical. I want you to appreciate with me line number 3. that Uganda is not the primordial Garden of Eden. I need you to get me very clear here. Never think that Uganda is at the Garden of Eden. No. Yes, Uganda and the Garden of Eden both share the same location. But the now Uganda is the corrupted once Eden. Get me very clear. Uganda is not in the Garden of Eden. Neither the Garden of Eden is at where Uganda is. But there are different layers. There was a Garden of Eden which was perfect. But as it was corrupted, what you see the remaining now is the corrupted version. Walking with me, if you look at the map of Africa, you will realize that Uganda has Sudan in the north, Kenya in the east, Tanzania in the south, Congo in the east. Now, I want you to appreciate that Sudan is increasingly arid. It's becoming a dry area. Kenya is increasingly dry, as so is Tanzania, as so is the western part of Uganda, which is Congo. Uganda remains a small portion in the middle, which is dark green. Although population has impacted the darker green of Uganda, but Uganda remains one of the most habitable places in this world, where day and night is equal, where the river is still flowing out of Eden, where all the symbolisms that were in Eden are still prevailing. Okay? Therefore, the use of physical senses in the search for the physical garden and the tree of life, based on archaeological findings, this can only give us physical truth, but not the existential truth of the Garden of Eden. Let me repeat it. Archaeologists are busy excavating fossils, which is a good endeavor, but that can only give us the physical truth. Thus, for us to know the existential truth, we cannot base on fossil evidence. Therefore, the stream is still flowing out of Eden. Now you know what the stream is. It is crossing the equator. But I need you to appreciate that the breath of life was breathed into man and placed in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, the same Garden of Eden is where a mold or dust was put together to form man, but it is where God breathed humanity into man and he became a living soul. I'm not saying this to say Uganda is great, but I'm saying the once Garden of Eden is the same location as the now Uganda. But Uganda is the corrupted version of the once Garden of Eden. Therefore, I know your mind is looking for, so where are the four streams flowing out of the Garden of Eden? The four streams flowing out of the Garden of Eden are still flowing. They have never ceased. But it is only River Nile which is on surface. Others are flowing underground through the earth crust. Therefore, what does this mean? Can we not really find out where these streams are flowing? Does it mean does it mean that only the Nile is what is visible? The Bible says all the glamour and the minerals that were in the Garden of Eden sank in the ground. So how do we know How do we find out this? If you want to find out where these streams are still flowing, establish the oil corridors. What do we mean by oil corridors? Oil corridors means in places where they are mining oil, that pathway through the Arab world, the river from the Garden of Eden are still flowing. What we see at the end as Euphrates, those are the end result of these four streams which are flowing. The primordial civilization was significantly from the first path of these four streams. Our first primordial civilization was from the Garden of Eden in Uganda up to the fruit of the tree or the fruit of the Nile. If you understand that one of the old names of Egypt is called the fruit of the Nile. So we shall keep using these names, the fruit of the Nile, to symbolize Egypt. That first stream is where the primordial civilization from the Garden of Eden has taken place. Egypt was even the epitome or the climax of civilizations from Africa. By the time we started civilization in Medes, in Persia, in Mesopotamia, in Greek, the Romans, Africa was already civilized very many years before. Therefore, if you follow the Minos pathway and the oil corridors, it only tells you where the world was first inhabited. That's why you see there is a lot of oil and minerals in Africa. Therefore, when you are looking for the Garden of Eden, I want you to appreciate that it is beyond a physical garden. We have three streams which are flowing underground. Out of the four streams flowing out of the Garden of Eden, the visible one is River Nile, but the three are flowing underground. We shall study these three which are flowing underground ahead. Therefore, it is from the Garden of Eden, the now Uganda, that the wonder and quest for knowing or that education started. It is from the prevailing now Uganda that the quest for education started. It is in Uganda, or the former Garden of Eden, that spirituality started, that the initial existence of man started, that civilization started, that early emigration out of Eden started. When you see Uganda, that which preserves Uganda is not only physical. Let me make this statement clear. Even when Uganda has bad leaders, Uganda has been preserved spiritually. Let me put it also this way, that even when the Ugandan people are struggling, they have remained calm and welcoming. Ugandan people are calm. It is not because they want to be calm, but there is a spiritual dimension that protects the Ugandan people. Ugandan people, I don't mean the blacks. I mean whoever is around Uganda is generally calm compared to the nations which are surrounding Uganda. Uganda has remained a brook or a water source where those who are from the northern part of from Sudan, southern Sudan, come southwards for refugee. Kenyans come westwards to Uganda for refugee. Tanzanians come northwards to Uganda. And the same as Congolese, they move to the east of Congo to come to Uganda. Uganda is the African country with the greatest immigratory populations. It is not by mistake. Let me also tell you this. Uganda is one of the countries visited most by religious leaders, no matter any religion. All the religions, their religious leaders once were in Africa and came to Uganda. We have had so far 3 Pope, the Catholic Church leaders, who have come to visit Africa. And I would tell you this, many of the leaders that come to Africa kiss the ground when they touch at the airport at Entebbe. Entebbe is the main airport of Uganda. Something that protects Africa, that protects Uganda, is more spiritual than the physical that we see. Therefore, let's establish, when we talk of that which protects now Uganda, what is it? Looking at this, I have said that Uganda is protected by a spiritual something. What does it mean? It means when the Bible says, in the beginning of existence, God created the heavens and earth, it means He created the physical earth and the spiritual or metaphysiological heaven. The concept of heaven was not a location. Right now, we think our Father who art in heaven, we think and we are working hard basing on religious beliefs to go to heaven. Our religious beliefs have told us that heaven is the location where righteous people go. I want you to appreciate that heaven is and will continue is never a location or where the destination of holy people will go. No. Heaven is the possibility of existence which was also breathed into man to become a living soul. Let me repeat it. When you are looking for heaven, the spiritual aspect of every living thing, the birds, the animals, the plants, man himself, the spiritual aspect is heaven. When you see that drawing, it is a duality. What is dual? Meaning the physical and the non-physical are coexisting. So, if you want to establish the current education system in Uganda, and I'm very sure globally, we have established the physiological truth, identity, knowledge, and reality. If you see the education system, we are studying physics, chemistry, biology, history, commerce, geography. These are things which are seen by physical senses. But we have not established an education system for the metaphysiological or the spiritual side. That which preserves now Uganda is metaphysiological. Therefore, we must study the metaphysiological or the spiritual truth and the spiritual knowledge. But that is not the only symbol of what preserves Uganda and other countries within planet Earth. The identity, all living souls, chickens, plants, animals, even man, the identity of every living creation is based on a duality. What does it mean? Every species that there is in this world is both physical and non-physical. Therefore, the basic nature, the basic identity of all living souls is a duality of existentialism. But does that mean that physical and earth are 50-50? Is the spiritual side the opposite of the physical side? Is that all? No. The Bible gives us another symbol, and it is called the tree of life. Let me tell you, all civilizations have explored the tree of life. The people on this planet Earth have tried to explore the concept of the tree of life. Some people, it has become a physical symbol like a cross hanging in their chest. Some people, the tree of life has become a place of worship where they go and worship trees. Different people have undertook the concept of the tree of life in different dimensions. Allow me to tell you that the tree of life within the Garden of Eden was a symbolism of 4 dimensions of the nature of existence. It was symbolic that every living creation can cause, it means it has roots, can process the stem, and can process physical outcome, which are the physiological outcome or the fruits of the tree, and can also make judgment or metaphysiological outcomes of the worth of fruit of tree. What am I saying here? I'm saying that all species, man, the fauna, the flora, the birds, those within the water, all species that you can look at have 4 dimensions. What am I saying here? I need you now to compare. We are looking at 4 components of the tree. The 4 components of the tree is synonymous with the 4 streams of the Garden of Eden. Hey, let me make it simpler. We said before that of the 4 streams, it is only River Nile that is on the surface, where a great civilization from the source of the Nile up to the fruit of the Nile in Egypt, the great primordial civilization took place. But the 3 of these streams out of the Garden of Eden, I told you these streams are underground. They are not physical streams you can see, they are underground. Now let's compare that with the tree of life. With the tree of life, that which we can see with our physical eyes is only the fruits of the tree. What does it mean? When you see the buildings, the roads, you see everything that exists. That is the final fruit which has come up. But every physical possibility that you see has previous roots and stem. Something caused it and processed it to be like that. Therefore, the 4 streams flowing out of the Garden of Eden is also the same symbol of the tree of life. We only see the physical roots of the tree, but the roots, the stem, and the judgment of the worth of the fruit are spiritual or metaphysiological components. Okay? Therefore, the fundamental nature of existence is now a quadinity. Quadinity means 4, a quadinity of existentialism. What does this mean? The physical fruits is what we see, but the 3, the roots, the stem, and the measurement or judgment of the worth of the fruit is metaphysiological. Okay? Therefore, basing on the primordial knowledge, what is considered as the trinity of spirituality are the 3 streams which are flowing underground from the Garden of Eden. Number 2, it is also the three spiritual components of an analogy of a tree of life. Okay? Now, the concept of the Trinity of spirituality was never what the religious belief consider as the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. No. Or it was never what also the holy people call as Joseph, Jesus, and Mary. These are physical constructs. I want us to go back and appreciate the Trinity of spirituality is the metaphysiological identity of Zaliranwa. Is the metaphysiological or spiritual identity of every creation. Let me say, some scholars think that the Trinity of spirituality is in heaven. We have already said heaven is never a location. It is a metaphysical identity of all creations. Therefore, the Trinity of spirituality is also not in heaven, but is the metaphysiological, is the non-physical identity of every creation. What does it mean? All creation can create and process whatsoever they want, and can also make judgments of the worth of whatever they have done. Have you ever found an elderly person saying, "I wish I knew"? What does it mean? Does it mean this person never knew? No, it only means he made choices and processed the now physical reality that is not proud of. Okay? It means this person is regretting, "I wish I had caused differently. I wish I had done different choices when I was young." Thus, the form of inquiry or the means to establish the truth of the roots, the stem, the fruit, and the judgment of the worth of the fruit is different. Let me put it this way. When we talk about scientific inquiry, it is only based on physical senses to establish the truth of the fruit of the tree. The fruit of the tree is only the physiological possibility of existence. Therefore, science can only tell us the fruit of the tree, but cannot tell us the causality, the processing of this fruit of the tree. I'll give you an example. Science mentions of an atom. I will tell you this. An atom is the final product, is the final fruit of the tree that science can understand. But science cannot tell us how the atom was created. Who created the atom? That dimension is not scientific. Let me make a statement now that never use scientific inquiry to study spiritual truth, because the spiritual truth is based on the Trinity of spirituality, and even within the Trinity of spirituality, each component of the spirituality is based on different forms of inquiry or different senses by which you can establish the truth. Let me say this. Truth is not only physical. Truth is never only physical. The truth of the roots is different from the truth of the stem, is different from the truth of the fruit, and is different from the truth of judgment. Therefore, owing that these are different components, but all the components of the tree, they are functioning as one system. The Garden of Eden was not just a physical garden, but it was based on 4 dimensions of existence. What am I saying? As God created, and therefore all creations, all species, they can create, they can process, and they can generate their fruits of tree. All creations can do judgment and establish why did we even create this. Now, I want you to come with me and establish that at this moment, the nature of your existence, the scope of what you must study, is the same as the Garden of Eden. You must be able to study the physical side and the non-physical dimensions. But the duality of existentialism told us God created the heaven, metaphysical, and earth, which is physical. But basing on the tree of life, the spiritual side is 3 dimensions of the physical side. Let me say this. The trinity of spirituality is 3 dimensions of the fruit of the tree. Let me tell you now, whenever you see a house, a tree, I want to put it in your head that someone, something created it, processed it. That's why you are able now to see the house. And there is another dimension. Someone must have looked at this house and said, wow, it is good. I have done and built a good house. The same way God said it is good. Even man, when he builds a house, he says it is good. I need to walk with you into the Garden of Eden. Let me tell you this. The Garden of Eden was not just physical, but we are digging down to see the components, the elements of the Garden of Eden. Where we have looked at the Garden of Eden based on 4 dimensions. But I want to take you to understand that the Garden of Eden was more than a tree of life based on 4 dimensions. The Garden of Eden was actually based on 7 dimensions, or what we call as the heptagility of existentialism. A hept means 7. Why are we talking about 7 now? This is something spiritual I need you to comprehend. A heptagility of existentialism means the Garden of Eden was based on 7 dimensions, not only a physical garden. We have so far explored and established that within the Garden of Eden was a tree of life. This tree of life, every component of the tree of life had free will either to obey or to disobey God's order. Therefore, if the choice is to obey, that was good. If the choice is to disobey, that was evil. Therefore, the tree of life, the 4 components of the tree of life were based on free will, either to obey or not to obey. But the same Bible tells me that within the Garden of Eden were other trees which were good for sight and good for fruit. What does it mean? There were other trees. We call them adjacent trees. Now, the tree of life and the other trees were founded in the same grounded. The roots of these trees were in the same ground, which we call as the milieu. Okay? Now, the tree of life and the adjacent trees were all in the ground. Therefore, the tree of life is 4 components, the adjacent tree is 5 components, the ground or the milieu is 6 components. But there is also component number 7, the ether, the wind, the air, the was providing for the entire garden. Let me tell you this. Spiritual people have used the word Amen. Amen. Amen is A-M-E-N. The word Amen is a version of previous words in Hindi, or the Indians call You can write it as A-U-M. The Christians call it Amen. But before that, it was called There is a difference between and A-A-M, A-U-M are different. That dimension of the whichever way you call it, is the ether. Every creation within the Garden of Eden was based on 7 dimensions. It could 1, create by the roots, 2, process by the stem, 3, establish physical outcome or its own fruits which it has created, 4, it could make judgment of the worth of whatever it has created, 5, there were adjacent trees, 6, the adjacent trees and the tree of life were in the ground, 7, all these were provided for by the It is basing on these 7 dimensions that we now talk about a period of time called as a week. The 7 dimensions of every living creation is the same symbolism of a week, is also the same symbolism of a rainbow. When the Bible says, and God established a rainbow, He was still establishing that your identity is 7 dimensions. Okay? Therefore, when you see the 7 dimensions of every living soul, whether individual persons, animals, trees, birds, those which are in water, the 6 of the 7 dimensions are spiritual, yet the physical fruit is the only physiological dimension. Now, let's get it clear. Basing on the tree of life, the spiritual dimensions are 3: the root, the stem, and the judgment of the worth of the fruit. But basing on 7 dimensions, the spiritual dimensions are 6. So we call it a hexa. Hexa means 6. Whenever you talk about humanity, humanity is based on 6 dimensions. I need you to get this clear. Humanity is not a mere opposite of physiology, of whatever you see. Physiology comes from the physical part. Humanity is 6 dimensions to the physiology of every creation. We said, basing on the tree, the roots, the stem, and the judgment of the worth of the tree, is spiritual. So those three, we call them the intrinsic. Intrinsic means within. Every person you see has three spiritual dimensions within him. Has the roots, can create, has the stem, can process, has the judgment of the worth of the tree, can also make judgments and say, oh, this is not right. So those three are intrinsic. But the adjacent trees, the milieu, the arm, these are extrinsic. Trinity of spirituality. Therefore, for you to understand humanities, you must establish the 6 forms of inquiry, or the 6 means by which you can establish the truth of respective components of the tree. This is the same concept that physiological or physicists consider as the multiverse theory. What we call as the multiverse theory, it means there are multiple universes happening within the same time. But this is a physiological approach to understand the Garden of Eden. But the spiritual dimension is that humanity is 6 dimensions. Therefore, I need you to appreciate. Plato also tried to understand the nature of existence, but Plato did not study the Garden of Eden. Plato was just a student of the Kemetic education system. Plato managed to conclude and say the physical world is not really the real world, but instead is the ultimate reality exists beyond the physical. Let's put it in context. Plato realizes that the physical world or the fruit of the tree is not the only real world. What was Plato alluding to actually? He was saying reality is not only physical, but the ultimate reality is spiritual. It exists beyond the physical world. But when Aristotle came, Aristotle was educated by Plato. He was mentored in the hands of Plato. But Aristotle, he also realized that Plato was not right. Therefore, he rejected Plato's theory of forms. The considered theory of forms, it means different dimensions of or components of reality. Plato thought that the forms or the possibility of reality is 2, the physical and the non-physical. Therefore, Plato's thinking was based on the duality of existentialism. But Aristotle rejected Plato's theory of forms, and his view was that these forms cannot exist independently of things. Therefore, the forms and the objects are one. Let's understand these views. These worldly views of these 2 considered great philosophers, Plato realized the physical and is an outcome of the non-physical. Therefore, that which causes the physical is the ultimate reality. But Aristotle rejected that view and he said, no, that which causes the physical reality and the physical reality, they should be one. Therefore, the forms cannot exist independently of the things they have caused. These 2 scholars, let me tell you, were all educated in the Kemetic education system. The Kemetic education system was the education system of ancient Egypt. The Kemetic education system had been developed by civilization from the Garden of Eden through southern Sudan or until Ethiopia, until Egypt. All those civilizations along River Nile, they had established a mature education system called the Kemetic. Kemet means black. Kemetic education system. But when the Greeks ruled over Egypt, that is BC 332, the Greeks rejected the Kemetic metaphysiological education system. Let me say, the Greeks abolished and they banished the education system that was not verifiable by physical senses. The Greeks considered the metaphysical education system as the Kemetic mystery education. So wherever you find the Kemetic mystery education, it was not a mystery to the black people from the interior of Africa or Eden up to Egypt, but it was a mystery to the Greeks. The worship of idols started after Egyptian civilization. The creation of physical objects as gods was after the ancient Mizraim. When you look at the ancient part of Africa, we have what we call we have what we call as the land of Ham, or it was called Mizraim. Now, this area from the interior of Eden by the source of the Nile through the land of Cush or Ethiopia until Egypt, these people knew that the physical and the metaphysical is intertwined, all is one. That's why the concept of Ubuntu was established to mean that the physical and non-physical is one. Therefore, let us compare what we have studied before, basing on Apophyseophy, with the physiological evidence. It was Diop in his book that he mentioned the ancient name of Africa was Alkebulan. And therefore, Africa, Alkebulan, or Eden, is the cradle of mankind, and therefore is the Garden of Eden. Remember, Eden was Alkebulan or Africa, but the garden was a symbolism based on 7 dimensions, or what we call now as the hepatagility of existentialism. In Diop doing this, he brought to us the ancient names and what happened in Africa prior to colonization of Africa. But we cannot only base on Diop. Looking at Gable, McClatchy, Kitio, Dieno, Kingston, Pilbeam, and others, these archaeologists have found remains of bones in Uganda. These bones were found from Napak. Napak is a district now towards Moroto. Napak is an area where remains of primordial species still remains and needs to be brought to life. These remains, which were excavated from Napak, is estimated more than 20 million years ago. These are the oldest bones that have been brought to life. But these are not the only bones. The western part of Kenya, which borders with Uganda, is a hotspot of fossil remains. What am I saying? The western part of Kenya is the eastern side of Uganda. There are a lot of bones, fossil remains that have been found, including the Kenyan Theropus, the Aurorin tugensis, and all these other names. You've heard of the Turukana boy. The Turukana boy is a remain of a child who was found almost complete. This, can we say, the bones of Napak district, the bones of Western Kenya, have been left by coincidence? Scholars, archaeologists, including Like and his friends in Kenya. Like was a steadfast supporter of Charles Darwin's idea that human evolution began in Africa. Let me make this statement. I am not presenting this to raise the supremacy of Africa. I'm only bringing back that you are never told in school. And you must know, because if you don't know your past, surely your future is at stake. I need to let you know, the great minds of archaeologists have found the oldest bones by the east of Eden, by the east of Africa. Do you want to believe this is a coincidence? It is not a coincidence. Therefore, let us discuss this. Although the anthropologists, the archaeologists, and the paleoanthropologists, although they have established fossil evidence of the beginning of your existence, this is only the physical truth, but it is never the metaphysiological truth. We are going back basing on the duality of existentialism. Fossil evidence is good, but is only physical truth. It is not the spiritual truth or the metaphysiological truth. Now, for us to understand the metaphysiological truth, we must study the apophilosophy of the nature of existence. In the apophilosophy of the nature of existence, this is more than philosophical anthropology. Right now, I'm doing philosophical anthropology to take you back to study the apophilosophy of the nature of existence. Remember, apophilosophy, it means the source. Okay? Therefore, basing on the philosophical inquiry and the physical evidence which is presented by the archaeologists by excavating fossil evidence, these have been found in the eastern side of Eden. But a stream is still flowing out of Eden and crossing the equator. That which was the Garden of Eden is now Uganda. What am I alluding to? I'm simply saying, come to Uganda so that we study the remains now and we are able to go back basing on apophilosophy to establish the Garden of Eden. And once we establish the Garden of Eden, then we shall be able to establish what happened before. Why was the Garden of Eden now no more? Therefore, we can make free will choices either to restore the order of existence in the Garden of Eden or to remain as we are. I'm sorry. Basing on the Garden of Eden, it is the only way we can establish the future of forthcoming generations. But this earth is never limited to provide for the needs of man. Get me very well? This planet Earth is never limited to provide for the needs of man. But the nature of desire is increasingly evil, and that is the considered normal. Let me say this. The world is not needed to provide and sustain man, but man's nature of desire, which is metaphysiological, which is based on humanities, is increasingly opposing what God established. Okay? Therefore, even the educated people, they only have studied physiological truth. But man is greatly a wasted living soul. Oh, let me put it this way. Man is greatly a wasted living soul. It sounds like an abuse, but I'm simply saying man is the greatest virus in this world. In Luganda we say, omuntu ayononese n'okukirawo. What does it mean? That man has got spoiled and messed up beyond normal measure. Man is becoming a wasted living soul. That is really perturbing. But I want to tell you, since the Garden of Eden until now, the physical shape or the physiological morphological structure of the individual people is not changing. Since the Garden of Eden and the first people who were there until now, the shape of individual persons is not significantly changing. But the metaphysiological existential identity is tending into malevolence and virulence. Virulence comes from the word virus. The spiritual dimensions of man is increasingly evil. Therefore, the roots of the tree, the stem of the tree is increasingly evil. Therefore, that's why you see the fruits we see today. There are increasingly of global challenges. Let me mention this. It is impossible to solve global challenges if we don't know how it was caused. It is impossible to solve physical problems without understanding what led to the physical problems. The cause of physical problem is due to evil at the root and the stem of the tree. Let me say this. It is so embarrassing that the great minds of this generation, they are establishing physical solutions, including the Sustainable Development Goals, to solve the fruits of the tree, but never the roots and the stem of the tree. Therefore, all living souls and all species, including man, they have greatly disobeyed the order of existence. That's why we have the fruits which are physical problems. Let me repeat this. Due to disobedience, that's why we have the fruits as physical problems. Yet the physical problems is not yet over, because at the roots and the stem of the tree, they are still creating more. You can't expect rotten roots to produce good fruits. Therefore, I'm asking you, do not blame the physical problems and the challenges that there is now. It is only the fruits of the tree that we have caused and processed so far. But basing on our free will, we can create more, and we are creating more, or we can choose to stop creating such disorders. Okay? Therefore, it is possible to have a life where we have less problems. But our education system is busy solving the fruits of the tree or the physical problems, yet the cause is in the mind of the people who are busy solving problems. It is quite embarrassing. All the individual persons, all the academic institutions, all the think tanks, all the UN-led Sustainable Development Goal is focused at solving the fruits of the tree. This is a painful generation. The people whom we think have some brains, they are busy solving fruits, yet the problem is at the roots of the tree. It's quite challenging. The existential cause of the prevailing physical problem is the metaphysical identity, not a physical problem. If you want to solve this physical problem, solve a metaphysical problem that is leading to the physical problem. I want also to let you know that now that we think man is the cause of the physical problems, deleting man from other living beings or species is also not a solution. The problem is to solve problems at humanity level, at metaphysiological level. Okay? We are busy solving physical problems, but the cause is not man, is humanity within man, especially the intrinsic trinity of spirituality. Let me say this. The nature of existence, that which makes you who you are, is significantly metaphysiological. The Garden of Eden was more spiritual than a physical garden. The identity of who you are a heterogeneity of existentialism, but your spirituality is a hexagonality, means 6 dimensions. The considered scope of education is only wonder and quest for physical truth, which is verifiable and justifiable by the physical senses. But I want you to appreciate, basing on the Garden of Eden, you are also 7 dimensions. Therefore, stop solving physical problems. Grow your education system so that you are able to solve the cause of the physical problems. And why am I telling you this? Basing on the Garden of Eden, there is eternally, there shall be physical outcomes. Okay? Because all the components of the tree, or the Ubuntuality, Ubuntu comes from everything is one. All the components of the tree are functional. Therefore, there will always be fruits or physiological outcome. But it would be better to create fruits which are based on good choicism. Good choicism means obedience to the order of existence as it was in the Garden of Eden. Because we have disobeyed, the religious people call it, we have sinned. We have gone astray, the order of existence. Let me explain it this way. If a vehicle manufacturer tells you it uses petrol, the more you put in petrol and you obey, the vehicle will serve you better. But the more you say, I can also put other liquids, the vehicle will give up. Man is continuously blamed as the cause of the physical problem, But allow me to tell you that man is also only a fruit of the tree. Humanity, based on 6 dimensions, is the cause of the physical problems. Therefore, I want you to appreciate there is a plenty of spiritual forces. There is plenty of metaphysiological forces in the universe than what sciences can see. Sciences has told us the fruits of what we have caused, but not the cause of the fruits. Therefore, I want to conclude by saying, here is my contribution to knowledge. Let me make my contribution that has never been done by any other scholar. The Garden of Eden has not changed. Okay? The Garden of Eden has never changed from the primordial location by the east of Eden. Let me put it this way. I know your mind is looking for a physical mind. The Garden of Eden, based on 7 dimensions, has never changed. Why and how can I confirm it has never changed? Your identity is still 7 dimensions. Therefore, you must grow in the education system based on 7 dimensions. Okay? But when we talk about this Garden of Eden, it was only descriptive and illustrative of the nature of existence. Whenever you hear people crying, "Oh my God, oh why me?" These people actually, they are seeking, what is the nature of who I am? I don't even know who I am. The establishment of the Garden of Eden by the east of Eden, it was basically to localize so as to universalize. Let me explain it this way. The establishment of the Garden of Eden, when God created the Garden of Eden, He only gave us an illustration of how we should live and exist, of how we should complement each other. God simply gave us a sample of how it is that we should coexist symbiotically. That's why it is called as Ubuntu. Okay? Now, more fruits of the tree or more physiological experiences. It is continuously undergoing causation and processing. Let me tell you this. Don't blame the madness which is happening in this world. More madness is undergoing causing. More is undergoing causation and processing. Let me say this. Don't blame the houses that exist. More is undergoing. What can cause a difference is if we change the nature of free will at the roots, either to obey or to disobey the nature of existence. Therefore, whenever you see the physical problems, think of why it was caused. Therefore, I now want to give you my contribution number 3. It is from the Garden of Eden until the fruit of Nile in Egypt. The civilization was both metaphysiological and physiological. Let me say this. The Western civilization has looked at the at the physical civilization. People think because they have laptops, they drive cars, they fly in space, they are so educated. No, they are only fruits. But the metaphysiological civilization was left in the Garden of Eden until the fruit of the Nile. We need to grow back into that. So these three are my contribution I need you to take home. The Garden of Eden is beyond the physical garden and it has never changed, but it was only descriptive, it was only symbolic and illustrative of what is the nature of your existence. Number two, more physical fruits is coming because we are creating and processing more. So if we want different fruits, we must change our nature of free will at the roots and stem of the tree. Number three, if we want to become civilized, we must grow beyond physical civilization and also explore the metaphysiological civilization. I'll give my conclusion and then we close. The Garden of Eden, it was just symbolic and descriptive of the nature of existence. Therefore, do not base on physical senses to look for the Garden of Eden. No. Use the metaphysiological senses to establish the Garden of Eden. Number two, the existential scope of education is based on establishing who am I, or the existential identity of living souls. Let me say this. The scope of education is based on understanding the nature and the identity of all living souls based on the 7 dimensions. Okay? Therefore, both the scope of education and the existential identity are based on the fundamental nature of existence as it was at the Garden of Eden. Grow up beyond the physical truth and establish the metaphysiological truth. The education system, the education curriculum, the syllabus, and the now academic subjects, it is only a quest for physical truth. But I'm asking you, grow beyond the scientific sense, physical senses, or the scientific inquiry. The scientific inquiry can tell us the fruits, but will never tell us the 6 metaphysiological dimensions of who we are. Therefore, we need to dig and establish the 6 dimensions, which are metaphysiological. And why must we dig and understand the hexagility, or hexa means 6, the 6 dimensions of spirituality? Because no matter the physical truth, it will never be able to overcome sin or evil choices based on free will. No matter the physical way we worship God, no matter the physical way we make weapons, no matter the physical reasoning we may have, it will never solve the problem of disobedience at the root. The physical cannot overcome sin because sin is disobedience, is a choice of disobedience of the order of existence. Therefore, it is impossible to overcome sin using scientific knowledge. That is my conclusion. I'll give you my recommendation. My recommendation is you must know who you are. Know thyself. The Garden of Eden was only a symbol to localize so as to universalize by living souls. The Garden of Eden was just a demo to tell you who you are and how you should live amongst each other. It is very annoying that man is busy developing spacecrafts to look for aliens, yet man himself is an alien from the plants, the birds, and other species which exist on planet Earth. Therefore, I need you to grow from only wonder and quest for physical truth so that you grow into other non-physical components of who you are. The forms of inquiry or the means to establish the truth for the tree of life based on the 7 dimensions is not uniform, and it is not competing of which one is the greatest, but all is complementary. Do I never use scientific inquiry to look for spiritual truth? Okay? I need you to move from physical warfare into metaphysiological warfare. Let me say this. I need you to move from physical fighting into spiritual mind computing so that you establish a physical possibility of existence that is based on the mind. Now, if you happen to know yourself, you will appreciate that all the 6 dimensions of who you are is one. We talk about the Garden of Eden and it looks wonderful in pictures and religious settings. But the Garden of Eden was symbolic that the 7 dimensions of every creation was one. Actually, in the Garden of Eden, all the living creations, the birds, the tree, the animals, those in water, and man were of the same mind. Let me repeat this. All creations in the Garden of Eden were of the same mind, were thinking good of each other. But now, I want you to know, the physical problems which are fruits of the tree, that all individuals, all our academic institutions, all the research organizations, all the think tanks, and the United Nations is focused to solve. It is our own now unconscious causation and processing as per our free will. Let me say this. All these problems we think we are solving, we are the one causing them. So if we are to solve, we must solve our identity. Why are we causing such problems? Therefore, it is impossible to explore life over other planets if we don't know life over Earth. Let me repeat it. It is impossible to explore life on other planets if we don't know life on Earth, if we don't know who we are and why we must exist with other species. I will tell you this. Of all species, man is the dependent species. Let me explain it. All other species can continue to live without man. But when other species are not there, even man cannot live. I beseech you, man or humanity must learn to behave consciously. I need you to cause and process physical outcome based on free will of good choices. Why must we create outcome based on good choices, not evil choices? Because the physical problem that is an outcome of evil or disobedience of the nature of existence. Therefore, for us to solve physical problem, we must solve the problem of free will at the root and stem of the tree. I will say this again. For us to solve physical problem, we must understand and solve the problem of free will at the root and the stem of the tree. Therefore, the Garden of Eden is never a myth, but it is a reality which is symbolic, descriptive, and illustrative of order of existence within the nature of existence. Let me repeat it. The Garden of Eden is only symbolic of how we should live basing on who we are. I'll give you this as my homework. Every teacher gives homework. I need you to look at the map of Africa, especially East Africa, or the map of East of Eden, philosophically. Okay? Let me say this. We looked at two terms in the Garden of Eden as a means of establishing the truth. One was apophesophe or apophesophically, but we are looking at prophesophically. Okay? We are looking at the future. I'm giving you homework so that you think about it. Therefore, prophesophically, Uganda's neighbors are increasingly arid. Okay? Southern Sudan is drying up. Kenya on the east is drying up. Tanzania is drying up. Congo on the western side of Uganda is also showing signs of drying up. But Uganda in the middle has become the center of immigration from other neighboring countries. I need you to appreciate this. The little remaining good in Uganda, which is green, if other people come, what is the future of Uganda? Number two, must Uganda chase the people away? Is that the identity of the Garden of Eden? I need to take your mind back to Eden. How do you solve a problem where people are drawing into Eden in search of survival because where they come from is dry? Presently in Uganda, we have immigrants who are from Congo, from Southern Sudan, from Kenya, from Tanzania. We have those who are immigrants from India. The Chinese are there. Other nations are also flowing in. We have many people who have come to work in Uganda but have decided to stay, not to go back in their countries. I know you think this is chaos, but this is never chaos. This is an opportunity to learn the nature of existence. Therefore, solving the population quagmire in Uganda is the exact solution, is symbolic of what must be done to solve the global population problem. Let me repeat this. The Garden of Eden is symbolic of how we must live. The population of immigrants in Uganda is almost coming equal to the Ugandans who are born in Uganda. Solving this quagmire of population by the east of Eden is symbolic of what will be done to solve the global population. Let me say this. There is no physical solution that will ever solve the global population problem. Even if it is diseases, even if it is wars, even if it is making these weapons to kill people so that we depopulate the world, there is no physical solution that will ever solve depopulation, because the cause of depopulation is metaphysiological, is not physical. Okay? Therefore, the physiological earth, I want to give you this as a hint to solve the problem of immigration in Uganda. The physiological earth, which we see now with our eyes and we think we are intelligent, this earth is never limited to provide for the needs and the necessities of all the creations that are on this planet Earth. This planet Earth is never burdened to provide food for fish, for plants, for animals, for birds, for people. No. But what is happening now, it is only indicative of the nature of desire, especially of man. But I told you before, even if you delete man from this existence, is not the solution. The solution is man to study humanities or to study own metaphysiological 6 dimensions. Okay? Therefore, planet Earth is not drying up and it is not dying, but man is busy strangling it. That's why we can say man is a highly problematic living soul. Man is a highly problematic living soul because man is only a container of humanity. But we have only studied man. We must now study the humanity within man so that we can replenish earth with as it was in the Garden of Eden. Finally, I can tell you with spiritual evidence, the experience of existence and the beginning of existence, it is not the same. Okay? Let me put it differently. The now, what we are going through now, and how it was in the beginning, there is a very big difference. I would tell you to do a simple test. Get a picture of the Garden of Eden and see how animals and birds were closer to man, and compare with now how far they are, and they are distancing themselves from the presence of man. Therefore, the experience of existence, by the beginning of existence, it was never like this. I need you to study and establish. So what went wrong? Why the difference in experience of existence? I need you to study this and understand it. If you fail, I invite you, come. I stay in Uganda. I stay in the now corrupted Garden of Eden. Come, let us reason together. Even the UN is busy solving physical problems. I invite you, come, let us reason together. Even the people whom you think are genius, come, let us reason together. There is a fundamental existential problems we must understand and be able to solve. I cannot thank you enough. You have been with me for now 2 hours. We have studied the nature of existence at the Garden of Eden. We have concluded and said the Garden of Eden was just a symbol illustration of how we should live. Come, let us reason together. I thank you for being with me. My name is Kiyingi Martin. I am a PhD student at the University of Nkumba, but I am the primary research scholar at Microcode Research here in Uganda. I thank you. I want to believe that at this moment you have a completely different picture of the Garden of Eden. And if you are asked the Garden of Eden, I'm very sure you are now confused because I have said a lot. But that is who you are, based on your creation at the Garden of Eden. May God be with you, bless you, provide for you, and sustain you. I thank you.